Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota Podcast. This is your cricketing podcast from South Africa. We talk all things South African cricket. You can find us on the One World Sports Radio YouTube channel at One World Sports Radio. Please do follow us on X. Tim tweets a lot, I tweet a lot. We tweet through the podcast page, and there'll be a lot of tweeting this week because we're going into the 4-day series final. We're also available on Spotify and Apple at Full Quota Podcast if you'd like to listen on an audio version. Today's show is going to be quite cool, so please do. We do appreciate your support as the fans, and we do acknowledge that we've got a nice little community growing, and we'd love for you to share it around and increase the community as much as possible. We're trying our best, and we'd appreciate help from you. Okay, this week's an interesting week, right? Because we've just played the final round of the 4-day series, which came with so much drama. There was rain in Pietermaritzburg. We need to talk about Pietermaritzburg, Tim, because it's an issue. We had Western Province slaying the team that's been on top of the log for the longest time. We also had the Lions taking out the Titans in the UXK Derby, and then a game that nobody actually cared about, but actually was the most intriguing one. We had Northwest take on all the Rocks, and Northwest winning by an innings. Some really, really good batting from guys you probably may have thought went in the mix, but I think they put their hands up. So, we'll see. So that's the cool thing. So that's our show today. But before we get anything going, Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, mate. I'm doing well. I'm very much excited to for the climax of the 4-day competition, both from a Division 1 and Division 2 perspective.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
So, look, obviously, currently we're recording on day 4 of the day 4 of the Division 2 game. It looks like Northern Cape are going to end up winning. Last I checked, I think they needed about 30 runs, Tim. So yeah, so it's Tuesday. What I can yes.
They've just lost the 4th wicket, so they needed 30 with 7 wickets at hand. They've just lost the 4th. Cricket's a funny game, but yes, Northern Cape.
Yes,
should take the title, and that would be back-to-back titles for them.
And obviously congratulations to Mark Charlton for that. They really know how to do this 4-day series thing, and it'd be interesting because that's a team I'd like to see play in Division 1, the 4-day series in Division 1, because it makes sense, right? So Tim, on Friday night I sent you a message on I'm trying to calculate these points, and it's one of my big bugbears because Western Province had finished. Now everyone's like, where's the final? Is it in Newlands? Is it at the Wanderers? Is it going to be at Centurion? What do people need? And to a certain extent, it came down to 0.8 points. Not 1 point, 0.8 points. Western Province went on a rampage last week. They scored a mammoth 592, and there was a point in that Dolphins innings, I think in their first innings, right, where it looked as though they were 130 for 3. You're like, okay, no, they're on their way. They're fine when Marcus Ackerman went out, and then they got bowled out. They lost 7 wickets for 69 runs, and then they got forced to play again, to bat again in the follow-on, right? And Western Province just went ham at them. Bjorn Hendricks took 4 wickets in that first innings. Nandre Burger took 3. In the second innings, Carl Simmons swept them out 7 for 39, bowling them out for 159, all in 3 days. And that gave Province effectively maximum points. I think they got not maximum points. They had like 25 points because they were at 400 by the time they got to 100 overs. And so they gave themselves every chance of having a home final. And now they sit and wait. And then we sit and wait and we watch on Saturday. The Titans were taking on the Lions. It looked Lions all the way after that first innings. The Titans got bowled out for 227. Sponelo Makanya with a fighting 66. But there was nothing much of help. Matthew Kleinfeld did try something. Diego Brevis with a 28. Kleinfeld with a 45. However, Again, Luto Sipamla on his comeback, 4 for 48. Malusi Saboto, 2 for 30. Delano Portgita, who's a really good opening bowler for the Lions, 2 for 37. From a batting perspective, it was that 100 from Joshua Richards, 107 for 201, to kind of cap off a very frustrating season for him. But you got 50s from Van Mulder and Mitch van Buren to kind of give the Lions a lead of about 70. Then obviously the Titans coming into bat in the bowling. Junior Dala did really well. He took 6 for 58. Second innings for the Titans, it was still the same old. Makanya 69. Not many runs from elsewhere. Joshua Van Heerden came into the 47. They scored 226. They left the Lions 164 to win, 161 to win. And it was a little bit scary because the Lions did lose 5 wickets, but Ryan Rickleton scoring a 64 in tough conditions and Vian Mulder 40 of 60 to kind of see them home. Those two had a 70-run partnership, 74-run partnership to kind of steer the ship home. In that, from a bowling perspective, it was just Junior Dala who took 3 for 64. He missed out on his 10 for Tim and 2 for 30. And to a certain extent, those are the two key games we were watching. Obviously, we'll talk about the back end, but Tim, let's talk about Province and how dominant that performance was, and how I'm the Dolphins right now. I'm feeling sick. Play the most consistent cricket throughout the year. You've been disrupted because you have purpose, you don't have purpose. You've got players going around the world. But that Dolphins team have built for years, and it's really disappointing that they can't get over the line like they used to. They used to be so good at getting to finals and winning them.
Yeah, look, I don't know what went on there for the Dolphins, because they knew what was on the line. They knew, it wasn't like a case of trying to find out what was needed. They both teams knew exactly what was needed. A win. That's what they needed to do. They just needed to win. It didn't matter how they won. A team just needed to win to get into that final. That was as simple as that. I found the Dolphins. I think the bowlers did okay. I don't think they bowled as well as they could. I think they did okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem area was the batting. They played as if they were playing in a CSA T20 challenge.
Yes.
Every member of that top six, at least in the first innings, and most of them in both innings, gave their wickets away. There were consecutive pulls to mid-wicket. There were drives wide at the stumps. It was a reckless batting performance from the Dolphins in both innings. It made very little sense to me. I didn't quite get it. As well as the Province boys were bowling, it wasn't a green bumper pitch, and they weren't bowling out of their skins. So I'm obviously delighted the Province are at the final. It shows the progression that they've taken over the last 12 months. But from a Dolphins perspective, I don't know where the batting performance went, because you kept waiting for something to improve, and it was the same message: go out there and spec it.
Look, I think they got put under pressure because of the mammoth near 600 that this Western Province team put up, and you kind of come in as the bat as after the bowling, after being in the field for a very long time. Obviously, Gavin Kaplan 173, shout out to him. Carl Verena 135 of 142 balls. I'm loving that. I'm sure Shuki loved that too. Daniel Smith with 106. Tony DeZorzi with a 72. And I'm sitting there going, if you're a Dolphins batter and you know you need to win the game to give yourself a chance, you kind of need to try and push the pace. As you say, they were batting as though they were batting in a T20 to try and win the game. And I just didn't like those tactics, because I felt, guys, if you get a draw, it gives you much better chance of making that final than trying to chase the win. And I thought the pitch was docile. I didn't think it had much in it. I also thought, obviously, Province's bowlers are now back. Nandre Berger, Brian Hendrickson, they've been bowling really well. But it just was very surprising me from the Dolphins. But they made a team that knows who they are. And it was kind of like, for me with Western Province, the band was back together. right? Kyle spoke about this in his interview with us. The band was there, the guys were there, Bjorn was there, they had Wesley, they had Nandre, they knew what they needed to do, and they backed each and every one of the 11 to do the job. And it kind of gave you a sense. Whereas the Dolphins, I think initially the mindset was let's go for the draw. Then Western Province put down nearly 600. And then they're sitting there going, if we make a few mistakes, we could find ourselves on the outside of the follow on. And they did. They didn't give themselves a chance at taking the game deep, taking it long. All they needed to do was survive one day, one extra day, and they just couldn't. And so it was disappointing. And sometimes you have that bad day in that bad moment. And speaking about a team that also had like a bad game at the end, it's the Titans. The Titans have been number 2 all season. They've been playing really well. Rivaldo Mensah has been scoring runs. Diego Brevis has been getting him out of holes, but it couldn't work this time. And even in that game, you kind of got a sense that after that first innings, the home team, the Titans, just kind of felt like they were going to try, and they really did. But then the moment that Rickleton and Van Mulder partnership kept going in that first innings, but no, the Richards and what was it? It was Richards and Van Mulder. Once that partnership kept on going, you kind of felt like they just found it very hard to break through. And yes, that pitch was a lot trickier than the one at Newlands because you needed to apply yourself, which is why that 107 from Josh Richards tells you a lot about who he is and where he needs to be. I think he's one. He should have been to New Zealand. I know he didn't have a great season, but from that technical display that he showed us at Centurion, he's the type of guy you want to take, right? He's hard to get out. He values his runs. He values the wicket, and he averages 40 on the high felt, which is as an opener is gold and is plus. So yeah, that's another story for another day. But how did you find that Titans and Lions game?
It was played as if it was a final. Let's put it that way.
Mm,
That's the vibe I got from it. I didn't get that from the Province game, and largely due to the fact that Province was so dominant. This game was very much in the play, in contention for most of the 4 days. That most of the days that were played. Um, but it was an interesting one where I think we said that the Titans. I think we said last week this that the Titans
mm.
bowling would struggle, and that turned out to be the case. That their bowling was a little bit. It lacked
It
an
needed
exceptional
Gerald
bowler.
Coetzee. It needed
Yeah,
Gerald.
yeah.
It needed another guy who can crank it up 150, which is the other question of a guy like they let go last season. Ogutlekele, he could have added that. Obviously, he was injured for most of the season, but you kind of get a sense that the Titans don't like having too many quicks in the arsenal or quicks coming through. I'm still questioning the Corbin Bosch selection, but he's a veteran. You need that experience. But a guy like Junior Dalla needed help. He was the only guy who put his hand up from a bowling perspective in that team. Dan Khalim, we need to have a conversation about because a lot of the guys, especially for a team like the Titans, right? You expect guys to be game changers, especially at the Titans because there were so many resources, so many approaches. You don't get a lot of game time. And what I saw was a team that felt a little complacent, right? Obviously, team kind of thought they were in the final that they were still gonna if they played okayish, they were gonna beat the Lions, and somehow they just never got out of gear number 2. The only person who did was Junior Dala. You would have thought that 6 for at the end of that first innings of the Lions gave the Titans some momentum to bat better and play better, but Cody Yusuf and Delano Borchit had different ideas for that, right? And Cody Yusuf took 4 for 81, Delano 3 for 47, and I don't know. Like it's tough, obviously, coaching a side like this that has played consistently well throughout the season. Actually, the two consistent sides this season are now watching the final with us on TV. And I just couldn't be. I just don't. I kind of felt like they thought that if they just kept on going through the motions, everything would be fine. But then the teams that were below them on the log landed the first punches, and the question was, how did they react? And they didn't react well. And Yeah, that was my disappointment
Yeah,
because I look at the
yeah,
Titans and I was like, you just needed someone with extra pace. The Lions
yeah,
were great that they had Lutus Pamela. Delana bowls a heavy ball, but look at the Titans bowling attack. You've got Dan Khalim, you've got Junior Dala, you've got Corbin Bosch, who is a shadow of himself, but Junior's the one who was cranking it up there. And then they ended up bowling Makanya, who got injured, Donovan Ferreira, and they went a bowler short into this game, and they got found wanting.
yeah. I do want to give a mention though to Merrick Brett. I think
Mm-hmm.
he is one to watch in the coming seasons. I think if he gets a leader partner next season, I think you're going to see a much improved bowler. I think he's got all the attributes to be a
Okay,
really good fast bowler.
yeah, that's pretty cool. So obviously we've got the two teams that are in the final, the Lions and the Titans. We're going to talk about that, but let's talk about a game that irritated me the most. This KZN, the Tuskers taking on the Warriors. It was a drawn game because we only had 2.5 days of cricket. And oh man, the Tuskers, if the Tuskers need to move if they ever want to win a 4 day series, because unless they want to play all the games away from home, this is going to be the story of their season. 2.5 days, drawn matches, but they were put under so much pressure. The Warriors went and scored 517 for three. Tristan Stubbs scored 302 of 372 balls, 34 fours and 6 sixes at a strike rate of 81. Matthew Brietzke, the captain, scored 108 of 333 balls. It was just sad that the game couldn't get more cricket and get you to a conclusion because you kind of felt that the Warriors were batting like a team that knew that if something went wrong elsewhere, they'd be in that final. And Tristan Stubbs just keeps on, Tim, giving us another thing to add to his illustrious CV. We know Tristan Stubbs, the master blaster, the T20 player. We know Tristan Stubbs, the ODI player. Now we're starting to see why Shukri's put Tristan Stubbs in that test team. Also batting at number 4. Remember in India, he was batting at 4. Everyone's like, it's a little bit too high. It's a little bit too high. What are you doing? Well, Robin Peterson, well, here you go. This is Stubber.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see his progression. I'm sure people will know by now, but that is a record high score for a Eastern Province or Warriors player. So, and that's a record that has stood for a very, very, very long time. Um, Look, he's got the attributes to play at the highest level. He's got the attributes to play Test cricket. There's no doubt about
Yes.
it. It's just unfortunate that it had to come on that particular Newton's pitch. That's all. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I think the Warriors in general, they did okay, but I think some of their decision making was a little bit odd this season. Just for example, if you're going to sign Short Whitehead and Liam Elder
Play
and
them.
not play them, that really is a baffling one. I love the fact that Sametu has come back from the wilderness after about 6 years away, and I love his story. That's a great comeback story, but you shouldn't be signing,
Yeah.
particularly somebody like Liam Elder. He was effectively 14's understudy at the Lions. He's now become. I don't actually know what he is because Whitehead is now Sametu's understudy. So I don't know where his
Yeah.
game goes from here. But
Both
interesting to
Whitehead
see.
and Aldo were playing for the Colts last week. So yeah, it was kind of surprising to see them playing there. But obviously they need to get game time somewhere. So hopefully they'll find a way. I think there's teams up here that need a spinner. And even in Division Two, I think the Easterns would be a great place for Liam to just sit and work. I know I'm sending everyone to Jeffrey Tayana, but yeah, I think he'd be an upgrade.
He
With
only
what's
signed 11
happening over there
players,
in the
bro.
East.
I can only have 11 contracts.
Yeah, I think I've given them 15 by now this season. So I do apologize, Coach Jeff. I just want to see the Easterns come back, but turn that Willamo Park into some sort of a fortress, please. Please, 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 please. But look, they've got options. Liam Alder's got options. He's young. That Limpopo side's going to attract a lot of talent as well because of the way they've been playing this season. A lot of guys will want to go there. And if you're a pure cricketer and you love your cricket, it seems like it's an environment where young cricketers can go there to thrive and discover what else they can do in the longer format. So that game was rained out. Just to talk about the Tuskers, Michael Erlang scored 127, Malcolm Norfolk 105. They scored 382 for 5, and that was it. Really, really sad. But yeah, it's just the Warriors season goes down in a whimper. The Warriors always like to start like this, Tim. They never want to be front runners. They always want to be the team that comes back up. And they tries to like make their way through. Like, well, the past 2 seasons ago they did that. This last year they were trying to do that. Can they just be on top of the block? Be the Dolphins. Like next season, just be the Dolphins. Yes, fine, you might not make the final, but just sit on top of the block for 5 weeks. Make us all look at all your shiny toys, all your really nice players, Jordan Hadman, Stubbsy, Brietzke, and go, this team is great, Bear, Swanepoel. Because quite frankly, because they're not going to make it into the final, they just go under the radar, even though Bears had a great season. Hadman had a great season. Stubbs had a great season. So did Matthew Brietzke. But even Sinetemba Sheila had a great season. However, we're not talking about the Warriors because these results don't come. They're very inconsistent. And that's the thing. I think last week when they got smacked by the Western Province, that kind of left a bitter taste. And I thought they'd fight back, and they did. You saw that they tried to, but it's just a really bad way to end the season. The other game that we're going to go over quickly, Northwest Dragons played the Paarl Rocks in Paarl. The Dragons scored 484. Lesego Senokwane 137. Very classy 137, by the way. Lesiba Ngwepe had a 2-time 84. He scored 59, went retired hurt, and then came back towards the end. Miguel Pretorius, we're talking about him last week. He's been having a goodish season, but this 93 kind of cemented that, he's still in the mix and you can't let him go. But Manye Tlengle, who is in Northwest now doing a really great job, 67 in that 484. From a Rocks perspective, they need bowlers. Spinners, whatever. They need bowlers. Falloon 3 for 127. Clinton Steeman 2 for 90. Sean van Berg 3 for 100. Mahima 2 for 75. So this I don't know what's going on with this team. I think this team is just
they need both.
A shadow of themselves.
Need both, dude. Honestly, they need both
batters and bowlers. They just need to have trials. If you're a professional cricketer and you are playing in the Colt League, you're playing in second division, there should be auditions. There should be trials for the Paarl Rocks, because I look at that team and I don't know. And now obviously Stian van Zyl retired, so yeah. That was. Let me just finish the scorecard and then we'll chat about this Paarl team. They then, in reply, Paarl ended up with 253. They were forced to follow on. Michael Copeland, the youngster, played for SN19, scored 40. Sean van Berg, 62 of 100. Those are the ones you can write home about. Duan Janssen, 3 for 53 for the Dragons. Caleb Seleka, the spin bowler, 3 for 54 in that game. Then in reply, when the follow on, again, Michael Copeland with a 50. Avuim Kijima batting at 4. Scoring 41. Stian van Zyl scoring 31 in his final ever innings in first class cricket, and it was 183 all out. Gideon Peters taking 5 for 48, and Caleb Seleka 3 for 35. So they just got spun out at home, which shouldn't happen because we all know that pitch is a very slow and low pitch. So I don't understand how that happens. But the Rocks have had a really, really horrible season. They are very lucky that there's a team called the AET Tuskers in the first division, because my word, they'd be en route to relegation. I think they still are, but this season has not helped them at all.
Yeah,
no, it isn't over.
If your best performers are over the age of 35, there is a problem. If your best
Yes.
performers are Hardest Villian, Sean van Berg, and this season Mikajima, then there is that's a problem. There is a huge problem. I saw progression when JP was the coach. JP was the coach. I saw there were shoots of progression.
Yeah.
There was a direction. I thought that things were going slightly in the right direction. I thought they had a young up and coming sort of people like Copeland were going to come through the system, and they were starting to show some kind of talent. Since he's left, all of that has disappeared. Added to that, Janneman Milan. I'm hoping we'll do this in a future podcast on a proper season review as a whole. If you look at his 3 seasons of the 4-day competition, he averages 30. All 3 seasons, he averages 30.
Yeah.
If Janneman Milan is averaging 30, now he isn't the only problem, but if somebody with that talent, somebody who was named Proteas ODI Player of the Year a couple of seasons ago.
With the World Player of the Year, ICC ODI Player of the Year of 2021. Was it 22? 21.
If that is happening to somebody with that talent, then there is an issue. There's a whole issue with.
I think we need to divorce the Janneman issue, because Janneman is not a club issue. Yes, his club is horrible. What's happening in Paul isn't great. Him, on the other hand, there's something else. And I don't think a change of scenery is going to help, because everybody knows how to get Janneman out. If you can go back to all the scorecards where the Paul Rocks have played, all of them, just go look at the bowler in the column.
Left arm
It
spin.
will tell you everything. It's not even spin. It's a left arm spinner. Like teams will throw the ball at their part-time left arm spinner because they know this guy just doesn't have it. And if you're not going to work on your game like that, work on your weaknesses. For years, I've been on this platform talking badly about Aiden Markram. The great thing about Aiden Markram is he shut me up. Why? He fixed his weaknesses. Aiden had this gap between bat and pad for a straight ball that would make, who was it? Who's that Pakistan bowler? The fast bowler. Anyway, there was this Pakistan bowler. I forgot his name when I was watching the PSL. Every time he would bowl to Aiden Markram, and he'd get the ball on middle and on off, just outside off, just inside that line. Aiden would play all around it, and he'd go in. And for years, he was doing that. And in that period where he was having the lean patch. Now, he's learned. He's grown up. He's playing better. The same needs to apply to Janneman Milan. All those people asking where Janneman Milan is, the guy can't score runs. He can't bat anymore. He's done. He lost out on guys, the SA20, the Joburg Super Kings had Janneman Milan last season on their squad. They released him. He wasn't even in the squad. Ask yourself where he was. Janneman could have actually gone to New Zealand. That's how sad it is. That is how low Janneman Milan has gone. He could have been in New Zealand with hacking it with the hackers. Respectfully.
Yeah. Yes. No. And just to widen it, that seems to be happening as a whole with that better unit. Whereas Michael Copeland 2 years ago was a young up-and-coming talent who was going to definitely be a fixture. His career has regressed massively, where I'm actually now thinking, go to Division 2. Find your game, and then move back up. That's not always a good option, because sometimes when that happens, you are stuck in Division 2, and that's a problem. But that is the way that it's gone for virtually every single member of that batting unit this season in the 4-day competition. And that's a huge problem. The other things you mentioned, if Sean van Berg and Hardest Villian are your best bowlers, and there isn't anybody coming through, that's a problem. That is a huge problem. The backup bowlers are not supporting them. If you watch their games, they are returning to Hardest and Sean van Berg and Mahima. I forgot. And Mahima, time and time again. And if those guys don't get wickets, they don't win the game.
Yeah, another thing is Glenton Seaman. He's from the guy who made his debut for the Proteas a couple of years ago. Now he's just a person. Um, and I thought going to Paul would give him a change of scenery, but it's a massive regression. And somehow they keep on signing these players who were once great and are regressing. Can you just sign a guy who's up and coming, who's on the way up? That's all we ask. If because those guys who are trying to prove something, that's what Foot Division 2 is. You can't be signing Glenton Steedman thinking, oh no, he's Pro Tier level, he's got a test cap, and then you watch him and you're like, actually, Glenton Steedman didn't even make that team to New Zealand, and we needed fast bowlers. That tells you everything about the recruitment at Par and what's going on with that club. But anyway, enough about them. Tim, let's talk about the final. We've got a final now. Western Province and the Lions. The Lions finished the log first in the 4-day series, but they have to play a 5-day match to determine who the champion is. And in that, you've got a couple of intriguing battles that are going to come through, right? For the Lions this year, the guys who've actually done well, Ryan Rickleton has come through, Cody Youssef. Rickleton has always been there, but he has been the guy. Cody Youssef has stepped up. Bjorn Fortuin has stepped up with bat and ball. Vian Mulder has been the guy who's been holding this team together. I think even Mitch van Buren has done a really good point where he's putting himself in the shop window for Protea colors in all three formats. For that, when you look at that Western Province side, top wicket taker of the season is Carl Simmons. He's been the mainstay, the great bowler. He left the Titans a couple of years ago, and now he's coming into himself as a bowler, especially with George Linden not necessarily playing the 4-day series anymore. Bjorn Hendricks, he's revitalized his career. He was on our podcast a few weeks ago. He's done really well. The number one wicket taker for a fast bowler. Carl Verena is having a great season. Eddie Moore is having a great season. But I can't look past Tony DeZorzi, Daniel Smith there at the top. They've done an incredible job. And and also the youngster, Gavin Kaplan. I was like, geez, dude. Just keep on bringing more people in. And when I look at this game, it just screams to me Western Province. However, both these teams just always wanting to fight each other, wanting to play against each other. This derby is very important for both teams. The Province lost out to the Lions last year in their only chance at silverware in the 1-day cup. Ryan Rickleton took it away from them. They come back to the scene of the crime again to do that. Province have already won the 1-day cup, so they're looking to make it a second successive trophy this season. And I look at this and I'm asking myself, will some of the approaches be available for the Lions? We know Timber had played the previous game. He didn't play this last game for the Lions. Is he going to come back in? Do you try and tinker with it? Will some of the players who went to New Zealand be available for the Lions? Because they were the ones who were impacted the most. Zubir Hamza possibly coming into the side. Tepo Moreki coming back in. Duan possibly also making a case. But Cody Youssef has put his hand up. So one of the guys is going to sit out. And so that's going to be quite interesting. Delano has also done a great job in the absence of the other approaches. So do you reward form or do you go back to your tried and tested that started the season off well, but you thought the one key, the ace that the Lions have in their pocket is Luto Sapamla. He's bowled really well. You can see, similar to Oguhle coming out of injury, he's gotten the reps behind him. He's taking wickets. He's bowling quickly. So there's a thing for the Lions where you're like, okay, you're playing at home. You can do this. You've got all this firepower. On the other side, you have this young team. This team that is trying to build some sort of a dynasty. It is not a dynastic run yet. You need another season to kind of make it a dynastic run yet, but they're becoming a very tough team to beat. They're becoming a very good, solid group of cricketers, ably captained by Carl Verena, who in himself in the interview was called himself the reluctant captain, leading the team. They've now gotten a group of experienced players and they've found that right balance of experience and youth, and everyone is doing their job. They're taking wickets. Nandre Berger is very, very deadly, and I can honestly see him coming to the Wanderers and taking a fifer to win the game. That's how good this team is. Don't look past Nandre. You've got Bjorn Hendricks. You've also got Wesley Bedge. You've also got Carl Simmons. So this Western Province team on paper are favorites, but there's that villain, that Lions team. For every Western Province fan, Tim, That Lions team just disappoints. If it was anybody else, if it was the Titans, they'd be fine. But it's that Lions team. Something about that Lions team that makes that Western Province team a little scared. What is it?
It's that star quality. That's what it is. It's that star quality. So
Mm,
it's the guys that have played for South Africa, but who are
mm,
not fixtures in at the moment. What's happened with Province is Province has built a side around what they had. They haven't gone and
yeah.
tried to pick Proteas. What the Lions have done is they've picked their guys that they know, but they've also gone and they said, we like Hamza. He's a Protea. We want him. Um,
Mm,
so I could see a mixture of Hamza, if he plays, Ryan and Mulder having a massive say and actually turning the table on the fixture. If Province win, it's going to be a mixture of those players. I don't think it's not going to be a singular score from a batter. It's not going to be a 10 wickets of the match by a singular bowler. The way they've won games this season is it's been a team collective. Um, so that's the way that I think Province will win it if they win it. In the other, Lions can do it both ways, but they do tend to rely in must-win games, and star quality comes through. You get a big 100 from Ryan, or you get wickets and runs from Vian Mulder, who's been absolutely
oh
magnificent this
man,
season
Leon.
in both at
Oh
bat and ball. Uh, you just look at his numbers; they are just incredible. Um, so it's very 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 tight. Um, I I think we've got the bowling attack for the Wanderers. I do. I genuinely think we've got the
yes.
bowling attack. That extra pace might be a bit tricky for our top six. I like our top six, but it might be a bit tricky, particularly if somebody like Mareki plays. It would be harsh on the guys that
Yeah.
have been picked for most of the season. But if I'm the coach, I might be persuaded to go, Delano, we love what you've done, but we
Yeah.
need an out and out pace bowler, and we're going with Mareki.
Yeah.
That's
It
that's
would
what I
be
would be doing.
my bowling attack would be Sapamla, Mareki, and Yusuf. And you go in there, and obviously Siboto will be there as your fourth, and you got 14 as your fifth bowler, and you live with that. And your top six is your top six: Dom, uh, Josh, um, Ryan, Hamza, Mitch,
Mature.
and Rian, which then begs the question. And then obviously Wandile Makwetu is in there as well, so Wandile might sit out and bring in Timber. So there's a lot of things that you can do to try and move the pieces around for the Lions. But how do you fit Timber Bavume into the side, right? If Kagiso all of a sudden says he wants to play, obviously that's a no-brainer. Guys are going to sit out, but that's the thing that Russell Domingo, Hashim Amla, and Alan Donald have to provide us is you could arrive at the Wanderers tomorrow, which is the day the game starts, and Kagiso's on the team list, and you'd be like, oh snap. It'd be fun. That's what we want, right? We
Yeah,
want that. We want
and
Proteas to
I
come up and play in the biggest game in the year in South African cricket, right?
yeah, but it would be a blow to the guy that has played the majority of the season. Of course we do. Of course we want that. But there will be inkling in my mind going, you know what? This guy's done it for 95% of the season. It would be a shame.
Yeah. No,
It,
I hear you,
I,
Tim.
I could see Timber coming in. For me,
Yes.
if they're picking Kagiso, it's it's fine, but it's almost unfair. Almost, we don't have. It's almost not quite. Um,
You'll soon have
it
that option, right? Because you guys are now producing Proteas, so guys will be walking in and out of the team. But yeah, I don't think
yeah,
Kagiso is playing. But I'd have loved for Kagiso to play this game. Even Aquena. Aquena would be great in this game, but he hasn't played 4-day cricket, so just let's hold him back a little bit. Okay, Tim, before we go into predictions of the final, let's go through a team of the season type of look. You gave me a list, and I have my own little team of the season. So just to give guys a shout out at the end of the regular season. So your team of the season, Tim. I'm just gonna go through the guys you picked. Lesego Senokwane from the Dragons to open. He scored 455 runs at an average of 37. Tsabang Ditole, he scored 451 at 41. Marcus Ackerman from the Dolphins, 571 at an average of 51. Carl Verena, 453 at an average of 64. Vian Mulder, the all-rounder, 508 runs at an average of 63. He probably was you could consider him one of the top three batters in this season. He also took 16 wickets, an average of 26, which is what you kind of want from a Vian Mulder. You also went for Tristan Stubbs, 562 and an average of 80. That 300 really did help. Then you also selected Miguel Pretorius, 478 at an average of 47 with 19 wickets, an average of 23. Bjorn Hendricks, he scored 24 wickets. He took 24 wickets at an average of 20. Carl Simmons, 28 wickets at an average of 26. Bjorn Fortuin, who will be fighting against Carl Simmons in the final at an average of 28. He took 28 wickets. And Oguhle Qele, he played half the season but ended up with 24 wickets at an average of 26. My team, on the other hand, was Lesego Senokwane, also really batted really well. Peter Malan, who was one of the top run scorers this year, scored over 400 runs from the Rocks. The only good thing to ever come out of the Rocks, I think, this year, outside of Sia Mahima. Marcus Ackerman, we've just spoken about him. Tristan Stubbs as well. Vian Mulder in that side. I wanted to give Rivaldo Munsami a shout out. He scored 580 runs this season. He was the top run scorer for most of the season. Just got pipped by Marcus Ackerman at the end. Avium Gijima, really interesting all-round option, just giving him a shout out for an incredible season with the bat. He ended up batting at 4 for the Rocks, and it was pretty good to see, and really good to see as an option. Bear Swanepoel continuing the season, he took over 20 wickets. I think it's 24 wickets this year. He really did well for the Warriors. Carl Simmons, great bowler, top wicket taker. Bjorn Hendricks as well, top wicket taker from the fast bowlers. And then Junior Dala, he ended up with like 20 wickets. He had the lowest strike rate of all of the bowlers and the lowest average. I think he averaged 20. So he could have turned that final for that semi-final for the Titans, or got them into the final. So any discussion here, Tim? Any guys you wanted to shout out? I like the fact that you've got two black African batters there at the top. I think Ditole and Senokwane really did well. And I like Oguhle Qele's pick as well.
Well, just to point out what you just said there, I hope we will discuss this in a future podcast. That's a huge concern. I've done the stats for the last 3 seasons, and the lack of black African batsmen is a huge concern. But I'm delighted for both of them. They're also the right age for progression to higher honours. Notable mentions for me are Mikajima. I couldn't get Mikajima in for the balance of the side. He has been phenomenal this season in a struggling side. Nabi, when we have had to have a sort of, so we say, a slightly weakened bowling attack at times, he has been phenomenal. 16 wickets at 20. And the wicket-keeping situation, that's the one area where we could have picked several wicket-keepers.
Rivaldo Munsami, Ryan Rickleton. Ryan's not even on both of our sides. That's how good the depth is. We don't have a lot of number 3s, but I'm suspecting a guy like Zubair Hamza would have put his hand up, because before he went to New Zealand, he was actually batting really well for the Lions. He was the leading wicket taker there, a run scorer.
Yeah.
Also MVB up there in the runs. So, excuse me. So
Mahima as well, because Mahima didn't play last season. Coming back, I think that's a huge. Mahima and Taylor both coming back for various reasons this season, and both having really good seasons. So I'm really happy about that.
I think the Dolphins have lucked out. I think when Qele went to the Dolphins, we didn't know where he was going to bowl, if he was going to get game time. Managed to force himself into the side, and he's really bowled well for the Dolphins. Just really heartbreaking that they didn't make the final, but he gave it his all. really great season. Looking forward to seeing what he's going to bring next season, because I think he's going to unseat one of De Pavillon and Bartman. I'd go with all three, but I know in KZN they might not be able to take all three bowlers and play them, because I think they've just got quality. And as you say, Tim, pace is pace is pace. Um, to close out and to round off, the final obviously starts tomorrow. It's a 5-day game on Wednesday up until Sunday. So hoping to get some weekend action up there in the north. In the Highveld, it has the Wanderers. There's rain around. It's been raining all February long. And so that's another issue, but there's an extra day, right? And Super Sport commentary, so you'll be hearing all the greats, Brett Proctor, all those guys doing the thing. How do you see it going, Tim? Are you going to be crying on Saturday night, or will you be celebrating?
I'm going to be celebrating. I'm going to say the young, youthful prophets are going to bring it through. The only thing I want to see, and I really wanted to see in the Division 2 final, but I want to see this go to day 5. Even if it is an hour into day 5, I want to see batters take their time in the innings. I really want to see that. I want to see that we have those individuals, particularly in this match. We've got Dom Hendricks, who has that ability to soak up pressure. I want to see that. I don't want to see 60 of 80 balls. I've seen that. I know our boys can do that. I know they can do that. I want to see good 2 quality bowling attacks and batters soaking up that pressure. Don't just bowl by trying to hit it out the park. Soak up the pressure and build an innings. That's what I want to see.
Okay, cool. I think for me that's it. But I want the Protea players to step up, right? Both teams have Protea quality players, and if they step up, we're going to be in for a game. I want to see 350 plays 350, 250 plays 250, and you take it to the final day on day 5, and it's just after lunch, and there's pressure and all the beautiful things that are there. And it's just going to come down to how you manage that first punch. Whoever lays that first punch, whoever receives it is going to determine how this game is going to go. I don't want teams buckling. I don't want 7 for 30. I don't want what happened to England, where they lost 7 wickets for 35 runs, and you're sitting there going, what is this? I'm hoping the pitch is a sporting one. Pace, bounce, consistency, just conducive to run scoring, man. Run scoring, taking wickets, just that ebb and flow of Test cricket, that true test, that you'll go an hour without taking a wicket and you're asking yourself, where am I going to get this next wicket? Where is it going to come from? That type of thing. And so it's going to be interesting to see the young, cohesive Western Province team against the potential star power of the Lions, and what that means. There's a lot of revenge matchups here and there. Andre Berger against his union of the youth, his youth. Bjorn Hendricks used to play for the Lions too. We've got Hamza on the other end. We've got Tsepo Mariki on the other end. So there's a lot of niggle that's going to happen between these two teams, and it's going to be quite exciting. So please do check it out as well. But outside of that, thank you very much, Tim, for this one. Good luck to the Lions and to Western Province. This is going to be a cracker. And yeah, it's exciting, right? 5 days of cricket, Tim. That's what we want.
Yeah, it's going to be on Supersport as well, channel 207. So put it in your diary. You can watch it on TV. You can put it on mute while you're on your laptop. There's no excuse to not watch it.
Yeah, and follow us on the Full Quarter Pod on X. Subscribe to the One World Sports Radio channel, and also Apple, Spotify at Full Quarter Podcast. Let us know what you think. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Have a great week. Enjoy. What a season it's been. Well done to everyone. And now it's just down to the final 2, the final showdown, the last dance. That's what it is. Outside of that, goodbye and lesale kakagiso.